we're just gonna go over a review of how the season went and just a bit of my story. About a year ago, I was in a weird place. I was present and I was hungry, but I wasn't sure where I'd be playing next. There was this feeling of uncertainty. I just knew, though, I wasn't gonna be stuck there forever. Now that the season's over, I'm here to look back on it. That year of being unsigned, it's a different year for me. It was a scary year. It was, like I said, a year of uncertainty. It was confusing because it was a bit out of the norm for me. You know, I'd been on a team at school and part of a squad for years now. And that year, it was different. It felt like I really wasn't a collegiate athlete. And it took a hit. But there's always beauty in the struggle. Even though it was a different time and space for me, it gave me the opportunity to grow. It gave me the chance to spend more time with my family, build my relationships, and ultimately learn more about myself outside of basketball. What I wanted as a person, what my core beliefs were, who I wanted to be, you know, outside of being an athlete or a collegiate athlete in that point. Now, when it came to finding a school, I reached out, I tapped into my network, but nothing really stuck. Nothing really came back to me for good news. And honestly, it was a little discouraging as an athlete to have to go through that type of situation where it kind of feels like all you want is an opportunity, but all these doors are closed.
I'm just tired, bro. Tired, bro. I'm tired. Why I gotta get the toughest cards, bro? I just want to play ball. Why is it so hard? Tired.
And it actually got to a point where I just kind of let go. But I didn't let go completely. I more so just transferred this. It wasn't a burden, but this stress, this time of trial into the hands of Jehovah. And ultimately, a few days later, after I gave a heavy consideration, heavy prayer, heavy thought, and I said, I just let it be in His hands. And a few days later, Lakeland shows up, and I'm in contact with Lakeland, and coincidentally, once I got that one interest, that one look, many more came, and that actually brought a bit more stress than I thought. But I chose Lakeland. Now, coming out here to Lloydminster, Alberta, it was exciting. It was a bit of a change, for sure. I've been away from home before, but not as far up north as here, and it's a much smaller town, coming from the big city of Toronto. But I found it exciting because there are opportunities for me to grow. There's opportunities for me to learn more about myself. And if you see, there's a consistent a trend with me where it's always about learning more. And I hope that if you're watching this, that you tend to capture that mindset of just always learning, always trying to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, you know. Thankfully, I've been at post-secondary school before, so on the academic side, coming to the school, entering a new program, I knew my study habits and I knew my learning habits. So that allowed me to continue the system that I had in place from previous years to progress at the high academic standard that I hold for myself. And within that system, I would make sure that I would have all of my assignments and due dates, all deadlines, all mapped out in my calendar. And I would not just have them like in my phone. I'd have them on my iPad. I'd have them on my laptop. I'd have them on my desk on a big calendar, so I'm always seeing it and I'm always reminded. That way, I'm never getting blindsided by any assignments or anything. But also, I make sure that nothing interferes with basketball. And thankfully, it worked out. I was able to receive Dean's List and all team or highest GPA on the team, which is cool. That shows that the system, and when you put in the work, it does show. Outside of the court and the classroom, there were some challenges though. Like I said, it was a new environment. Trying to eat right, when you're in school, it's hard because you're going for so long, so many hours of the day, class, practice. Keeping that diet up, especially as an athlete, is very tough. And like I said, I've developed systems where, okay, when I go grocery shopping, I know what I need. These are good quality foods that even if I just eat once or twice a day, they're nutriently dense so that I will have enough nutrition to keep my body going throughout the day, whether it's throughout a practice or a workout or a long class. And it wasn't always easy though. Some days I was eating good. Some days I might have just got caught lacking, and it happens. But I consistently tried to keep that going. So that was a challenge, continuing that right diet and everything. Another one would be not letting this weather get to me. They were some cold days. This is the furthest up north I've ever been. And wow, talk about just low-key just depression. I don't believe in all of that, but it gets you down because you wake up, snow, cold. You wake up at 7 a.m. and it's still dark. Sun's not coming up until at least 10, 8 maybe, depending on the certain days. It'll be cloudy. You come out of practice at 6 o'clock, nighttime. It plays with you, and it was hard. That was definitely the weather, the environment change. That was a challenge. But nonetheless, it added some more tough skin on me, and I grew from it, right? And again, one of the bigger things that, although I was busy with basketball and I was meeting new people, I grew up in such a loving home and everything where I'm always gonna miss it. I could never have enough time, or I could never be okay with being away from home for a prolonged period of time. My siblings, my family, even my close friends, there's something about home, so that was a challenge too, trying to balance it, but I stayed grounded, and I think I did pretty well to maintain that healthy balance of, getting those phone calls in, those FaceTimes, getting that re-energize or that recharge of battery, social battery, and kept it going. Now, coming into this season, my mindset was simple. Be present, enjoy the moment, and prove all of my supporters that they were right to believe in me. Part of me felt like coming into this year I had to prove myself, but maybe not necessarily for the right reasons. But it blossomed into something bigger than that. I started to study certain game situations more, look at film, really take focus. And over the season, it showed me that I don't know everything. I don't know everything about being a teammate. I don't know everything about being a captain or a co-captain, a leader. I don't know everything about being the guy to score, being the one to do this and that. I don't know everything. And that's okay, because it shows that there's room to grow, there's room to learn. And that's all I'm for. It's all consistently learning. So at times, instead of me getting frustrated about not knowing everything, I leaned in on my leading aspect, leading by example. On the court, I started to learn that as a player, I have a natural, calm impact on people. And the positive energy becomes contagious and helps spread out throughout the team during high tension moments or during tough times. Off the court, I learned that by consistently putting the work in, whether it's in the weight room, in the classroom, the results will come, and they've shown. And by leading example in that sense, I hope that fellow athletes, even my teammates, begin to see that consistency, both on and off the court, will lead to results. I also learned this season that I like being alone. I've developed the comfort the peace of mind of just being alone, learning more about myself. I think that's a big step in growing as a man, being able to be comfortable by yourself and not have to depend on anyone or always need to be around with certain people. I do say that to say, though, I've also learned that I miss my family. Being far away from home, I know I've been far away from home, but I miss family. Family is probably the key. Family is one of the big factors for me, for sure. And I would say the final thing that I guess it's not something I learned, but I was reminded of, is that I love the game. I love the game. Putting this in the basket, working as a team on the court, there's so many different aspects that actually bring me that dopamine effect, that joy. Even through tough times like injuries or bad practices, somehow, some way, I find a reason to keep showing up and to just enjoy the game of basketball. Now, I would say within the season there were two key points, two key chapters, I guess, that stood out to me. The first one was growth. I started growing into myself. My leadership got better. My IQ improved, and I would say my shooting definitely got better for sure from previous stages. Obviously, it got better throughout the season. I had my days and everything, but that was one big thing. And the biggest thing I think that stood out throughout the season was the trust, and that was a big thing. Coming from my past situation, I felt like there was a lack of opportunity, which meant there was a lack of trust, and there was an abundance of trust here, which further led to an abundance of opportunity. And I owe that to the coaching staff, Coach Sheree, for giving me the opportunity to come out here, letting me step into this big role even after a year off, with limited film and everything. But from day one, from the first practice, I knew that the lead role in me, the leadership, had to come out. And I think it did. Even my coaches, my teammates, even after some reoccurring mistakes, some bad practices, some bad decision making within games, the trust was there, and that goes a long way. They don't have to say, I trust you, but it's more so the actions. I might turn over the ball, teammates still giving me the ball, coaches still looking for me to make the right play. I might miss a couple shots, but my coaches, they're still up there. If I'm shooting, they're putting a three up. Same with my teammates. I've seen it in film, and that definitely goes a long way of why I felt like I had a sense of belonging here. And I'm just very appreciative of that. And not too many, it sucks, but not too many athletes get that opportunity. So that's another reason why I wanted to be present, and I wanted to be grateful for this opportunity. And before I forget, it wasn't even just within the team, within the coaching staff. It was the community, from other teams, from the fans, from the young athletes that we coach. They really showed love, and it kind of hit me. I'm like, yeah, I think I belong here. And then there's the reality side of it. It wasn't all smooth, and I'm sure you would know that as fellow athletes. There's ups and downs, but you never want to get too low. You never want to get too high. You want to keep it consistent, and I think that's something that I've conditioned myself to do. And I think that's where a lot of the trust and the leadership played a big role. And there were a lot of bad games, and there were some bad games, bad decision making, poor performances, and tough practices. There were some injuries in the way. There were some moments of inconsistency, of just reoccurring mistakes. And there are a lot of things that people didn't see. The self-doubt that would tend to creep in after those moments that I would have to check immediately to not let them grow and spread. There was those days where I didn't want to go to practice. I'll keep it a stack with you. I love getting better. I love it. I love the improvement, right? But I'm human, and there's those days where it's just like, yo, I could probably just, sit out this one. But I talked to myself. I reminded myself of where I came from, and having a lot of food on my plate is what I asked for. I wanted to eat. So that means I had to show up to practice. Even when I'm sore, when I'm tired from 3-4 classes, back-to-back games and whatnot, I just continued to show up. And it was the discipline that played a big role for me. And of course, missing my family, being so far away from home, that took a toll. Whereas days where it's like, you see people going back home and everything, but you gotta wake up in the morning and go to the gym when it's negative 20 degrees outside. It hits you at some points. But a lot of self-talks that I had with myself, I'm not gonna say they're all negative, but I tried my best, and I think I did all right. And so that took a big role of the consistency that I was able to have to show up in the gym and to keep it going. Now, to address the elephant in the gym, however you want to say it, the season didn't go how we planned, and it was a bit disappointing. Like I said, coming into the season, I had my agenda, and honestly, I can honestly say I wasn't set on putting a banner right away, because I was coming into a new environment. I was still filling out the team and everything. But a couple games went by, and I'm like, okay, we got some guys right here. And looking at the league, we can really do something, Fast forward into the mid-season and everything, we become the first team in the league on the north side and everything. We're just running through teams, having good battles, good games, we're staying together. And then we ended up falling short when playoffs came. We won our first game, felt good, felt energized and everything. And that second game hit. We went up against a good team, Lakeland. They came hungry. Some might say they're a bit hungrier than us. And even though we had the home court advantage, we played right here in this court. To have our fans, our community come and pack out the gym, and we couldn't put on the right performance for them. It was a bad day to in other words, shit the bed, So after we lost that second game, we lost our chance of going to nationals and getting that gold, the first ever gold here at Lakeland College. And it stung. It really stung just to see how the trajectory we were going at, and then boom, it was over. And I think it hurt a bit more because, as I said in the beginning, I didn't have that mindset of, all right, let's put something up there. But after a couple games, I'm like, all right, this is all I want. With this squad, I want gold. I want to do this. And I don't know, maybe it was too late to have that mindset. I don't think so, because I was locked in on it. And it just came to that one day where in playoffs you don't show up at that one opportunity, it's wraps. So that stung. We had an opportunity to play for third place, and as you can imagine, after falling short of our primary goal, it was hard to bring it for the third game. We were going up against the other number one team who went undefeated. That's the number one team in the nation, I think, for a little bit. And it's funny, you could think the two number one teams playing for third place. So this whole season was a mixture of things. But nonetheless, I enjoyed it. Definitely a bunch to learn from it. And although it's going to be in the back of my head and it's going to sting, we're not going to dwell on it too much. We're focused on what's next. And that's just getting better. That's just improving, learning from the mistakes we made, and preparing myself for the next opportunity and what role I have to come next year. If I had to end off with my 2 cents, words of motivation to fellow athletes, or even anyone, honestly, just from what I've learned through life, is that don't quit on yourself. Do not quit on yourself. You can get down. You can get down. All right, but don't stay down. It might sound cliche and everything, but you are the only person you have, right? And it goes back to me being when I talk. Bleh. And it goes back to me being. And it goes back to me talking about being comfortable with myself, alone. Only you and your mind, you and your thoughts. You are all you have, so you cannot give up on yourself, all right? You may have to be delusional to a certain extent, and that's perfectly fine, all right? Some of the best people in the world were delusional. Another thing I would say is to build the people around you. And I said build, as in gather them in order for them to support you, but you also got to support them, All right, build your village that you can lean on during tough times, and support them. All right, so that in the future you all grow and you all benefit. And of course, finally, keep God first. Keep Him in mind. For me, I grew up with a strong faith, and it was tough. So sometimes I think growing up in the faith, it was just all I knew, I guess, right? And as you get older, you start to experience and learn different things. And I drifted away for a bit, but I never lost sight of Him. I always kept Him with me. And even though I may have not been the best in His eyes, I can definitely tell you that He's always been there for me. I could quickly relate to one game, a big game that we fell short on the first night, and the second, and I was down. I had to take a walk after, like, it was 10 p.m. It was cold, and I just had to take a walk. I couldn't go home yet because I was so down about it. But I sat on a bench and I prayed. I prayed to Him to help me in everything. And it turns out that second game, couldn't miss. Had a great game, great performance. I just say to keep Jehovah first. Always keep Him in mind. And yeah, when in doubt, raw action. All right, don't just sit there. Do something. All right, figure it out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me catch y'all later on. It's summertime, so a whole lot of off-season work, traveling, and just keeping that body and that mind right and that growth. So I hope you stick around. If you liked the video, comment, like, whatever. Do whatever you want to do. Subscribe. It's free. But yeah, it was fun. Shout out to Lakeland, man. Oh. Hold on. You still watching? I bet. Since you're watching to the end, how about I make a deal with you? If I make this shot, you gotta subscribe and share the video. If I miss, you go about your day and act like we never had this conversation. Sound like a deal? Bet. Appreciate ya.
Some young flick shit.